1 minute smarter, every market clearer. Welcome to my channel, I'm Claire. Welcome to today's deep dive session. Today, we're going to discuss a topic that might seem a bit unorthodox or even crazy, but please hear me out. Hello, everyone. Let's take a close look at one of the most radical voices in the current global economic discussion. Elon Musk recently made a prediction that has left economists worldwide gasping for air. He suggests that within the next 5 years, the annual GDP growth rate of the United States might no longer be the familiar 2% or 3%, but could achieve a staggering triple-digit growth, meaning more than 100%. What I find fascinating about this figure is that it is completely unprecedented in modern economic history. Even during the peak of the Industrial Revolution, or the so-called Golden Age of post-WWII reconstruction, we never saw wealth growth of this magnitude. Normally, if a developed nation maintains 3% growth, it's enough for finance ministers to celebrate. Naturally, many people's first reaction is, "There goes Musk, exaggerating again." It sounds insane, but in Musk's career, the line between insane and prophetic is often very thin. Interestingly, if we look back 20 years, when he took the money from selling PayPal and said he would build rockets capable of vertical landing and recovery, the entire aerospace industry laughed at him. Top scientists at the time even asserted that, while a vertical landing for a first-stage rocket might be physically possible, it was engineering and commercial suicide. People watched SpaceX rockets explode into massive fireballs over the ocean time and again, and media headlines were just waiting for this Silicon Valley maverick to go bankrupt. But what happened? Today, the Falcon 9 has achieved hundreds of successful recoveries. Some even joke that watching it land is now more boring than watching a plane land. Musk didn't just lower rocket costs by an order of magnitude, he essentially propped up half of the U.S. space industry single-handedly. 15 years ago, while Detroit's auto giants were still reveling in the roar of internal combustion engines, Musk said electric vehicles were the future. Back then, EVs were mocked as luxury golf carts with batteries. No one believed they could handle long distances, and certainly no one thought they could perform like a supercar. However, the debut of the Model S was like a loud wake-up call to the traditional auto industry. Now, almost every car company in the world is desperately trying to catch up on the track Tesla opened. From the Starlink network to Neuralink, Musk's greatest talent is taking things that sound like science fiction nonsense, breaking them down into hardcore engineering problems using first principles, and then brute forcing them into reality. So when I see him predicting 100% GDP growth, while I maintain a healthy level of skepticism, I cannot simply dismiss it. In Musk's dictionary, impossible often just means not yet. So, where does the confidence for this kind of growth, which seems to defy economic common sense, come from? It comes down to two evolutionary trump cards in his hand: FSD, full self-driving, and AI. Musk recently judged that Tesla's AI is at least an order of magnitude ahead of competitors in intelligence density. Furthermore, he has proposed a subversive prediction for the wealth logic of human civilization. He believes that with the full intervention of AI and robotics, humanity is about to enter an era of nearly infinite wealth explosion. To understand this grand prophecy, we must start with his sharpest weapon, FSD technology. He recently conducted an industry-shaking demonstration in Austin, riding in a Tesla with absolutely no safety monitoring as it completed a perfect drive through complex city streets. This was no longer a lab test. It was a true driverless attempt. Musk said the current FSD makes him feel that intelligence is reaching maturity. However, I found that even more weight comes from outside evaluations. Linksy Jim Fan, a senior research scientist at NVIDIA and a heavyweight in the AI world, gave high praise after experiencing FSD version 12. He believes this might be the first time humanity has seen AI pass the physical Turing test. We all know the classic Turing test. If you communicate with a machine through a screen and can't tell if it's human or machine, it possesses human intelligence. But the physical Turing test is a higher dimension. It requires the AI to be not just smart in the digital world, but to behave like a biological entity with intuitive judgment and flexible reactions in an extremely complex, random physical environment. Interestingly, the data shows that when you observe Tesla's FSD handling complex roundabouts, pedestrians suddenly darting out, or dimly lit rainy streets, it is no longer rigidly executing preset code instructions. It is observing, thinking, and even engaging in a level of game theory. Past autonomous driving was like a stiff instruction manual. The code said, stop at red light, or slow down if there's an obstacle. This is rule-based, and its ceiling never exceeds the programmer's imagination. But today's FSD is evolving from executing commands to understanding the world. When it observes, it no longer just sees pixels and colors. It sees context. It can distinguish whether a person swaying on the roadside is a drunk or a child playing, and it provides completely different safety margins accordingly. It has discarded rigid code logic in favor of a neural network similar to the human brain. It no longer looks for a standard answer, but calculates probabilities. It anticipates who wants to cut in and who is hesitating based on the slight movements of surrounding vehicles. I find this fascinating. At a chaotic intersection without traffic lights, FSD no longer waits aimlessly as it did in the past. Instead, like an experienced driver, it uses subtle creeping and nudging to test the intentions of other drivers. This psychological maneuvering in the physical world, this intelligence density, is exactly why Musk claims Tesla is at least an order of magnitude ahead. There is also a very interesting technical rivalry here. Andrej Karpathy, the former director of AI at Tesla, once believed that Tesla and Google's Waymo were neck and neck in terms of driving experience. But Musk believes that understanding is now obsolete. After Karpathy's departure, Tesla achieved a species-level evolution through end-to-end neural network technology. The technical chasm here is that Waymo relies more on high-precision maps and preset rules, while Tesla takes the most concise and efficient path: a vision-based neural network. This means Tesla is trying to let the car drive like a human, relying only on eyes and a brain in any unfamiliar corner of the world. Currently, FSD's safety is already 2 to 3 times that of a human driver, and Musk's goal is to be 100 times safer than a human within 5 years. If this goal is achieved, it won't just change transportation. It will dismantle the traditional insurance industry, reshape urban planning logic, and even redefine how humans perceive distance. Let's look closely at that eye-popping GDP growth forecast. Musk believes that within the next 12 to 18 months, U.S. GDP could achieve double-digit growth of over 10%, and within 5 years, triple-digit growth of over 100%. Why does traditional economics consider this a fairy tale? Because in classic growth models, economic growth relies on 3 factors: labor, capital, and total factor productivity. In recent decades, aging populations have slowed labor growth, and technological progress has hit a bottleneck, making 2% to 3% growth the norm for developed countries. But Musk's logic is extremely simple and blunt. If intelligence and labor are no longer limited by the number of biological humans, but can be expanded infinitely with electricity and chips, then output becomes infinite. Achieving double-digit growth in 12 to 18 months sounds crazy, but Musk's confidence comes from the deep penetration of AI within enterprises. When all legal documents, basic code, customer service inquiries, and administrative planning are completed instantly by AI, this leap in efficiency will be reflected directly in financial reports and macro data. As for triple-digit growth within 5 years, that means the economy would double in a single year. This kind of explosive growth happens in only one scenario: the perfect combination of artificial general intelligence, AGI, and physical robotics. Imagine if a factory doesn't need workers to rest, doesn't need to pay health insurance, and can self-optimize and produce robots 24/7, and those robots then go on to build more factories. This self-replicating exponential effect is the growth engine Musk is talking about. Interestingly, Musk himself admits that the confidence level for this prophecy is about 51%, meaning he thinks it's only slightly more likely to happen than not. But even that 51% probability is enough to drive capital markets wild. Data shows that in the first half of 2025, 92% of capital expenditures by top global firms flowed into AI-related growth areas. This means the world's wealthiest people have reached a consensus. If you don't invest in AI, you are waiting to die. It is no longer a choice. It is a survival race. This intensive capital irrigation is preparing the soil for that potential growth miracle. If FSD is Tesla's soul, then the Optimus humanoid robot is its body. Musk sees the combination of AI and robotics as the ultimate solution to social crises, especially in healthcare. When discussing the current healthcare system, he used a very biting metaphor. He said existing government healthcare is like having the DMV as your doctor. Bureaucratic, inefficient, with extremely long wait times. The root of this inefficiency is that high-quality medical resources are extremely scarce, biological resources. But if AI assists in diagnosis and robots handle daily nursing and surgical assistance, medical costs will collapse instantly. Musk promises he will do his best to use AI and robotics to provide unbelievable healthcare for all of humanity. He believes this is the only way to make everyone truly wealthy, because true wealth isn't the number in your bank account, but having the cost of the services and resources you enjoy drop to near zero. I have high hopes for Musk's upcoming third-generation Optimus robot, which he plans to reveal in February 2026. NVIDIA's Jim Fan also believes that robotics is the last great challenge for AI. Once robots can handle tasks like folding clothes, carrying goods, and fine-tuning parts, actions that seem simple but are physically complex, humans will truly be liberated from the slavery of physical labor for the first time. Interestingly, the U.S. government's attitude has also shifted from initial suspicion to active embrace. This green lighting of policy signals an acceleration of change. Faced with such a historic turning point, even those skeptical of Musk must face a serious financial reality. You don't have to believe him, but never try to short him. In the capital markets, shorting Musk has been one of the most expensive and painful professional lessons of the last 20 years. Looking back, he was making EVs 20 years ago, recycling rockets 10 years ago, and deploying Starlink a few years ago. Each time began with ridicule and ended by turning madness into reality. Based on current analysis, by 2026, Tesla's stock price could exceed $1,000 per share. This pricing logic is no longer based on a car company, but on the world's largest robotics company and a leading AI service provider. If GDP truly achieves triple-digit growth within 5 years, the market premium for Tesla, as the core engine, will be beyond imagination. Of course, risks remain. Policy maneuvering, computing power bottlenecks, and societal tolerance for autonomous driving accidents are all swords of Damocles hanging over our heads. But the irreversible fact is that the productivity leap brought by the explosion of intelligence density is pushing toward every one of us like a tide. While we fret over stock prices or GDP figures, a more profound proposition is already before us. If Musk's prophecy comes true, are we standing at the dawn of a new civilization, or entering a dreamscape dominated by machines? In this era of intelligence density, the rules of survival are being rewritten. You might feel this is a utopia of extreme material abundance, or you might feel it's like a cold science fiction film. Under this logic, the definition of wealth will be completely rewritten. If medical care, manufacturing, and services are all handled by robots, where does the value of human beings lie? When traditional diligence loses its meaning in the face of absolute computing power, we must find new coordinates. A core concept Musk repeatedly mentions is intelligence density. Future competitive rules will shift. The core competitiveness of a region, a company, or even an individual will no longer depend on how much physical strength you have, or how much rote knowledge is stuffed in your head, but on how much intelligence density you can mobilize and command. This means the human role is undergoing an ultimate transformation from producer to dispatcher. We are experiencing not just technological iteration, but a reorganization of economic laws. Previously, wealth was conserved and contested, but with AI, wealth could become a kind of code that can be generated infinitely. This sounds beautiful, but it is also extremely cruel. Because if you cannot understand and connect to this new system, you may find that in this era of exploding wealth, you have become an island forgotten by the system. Musk says 2026 will be an even crazier year, and I would say that what is often crazy is not the technology itself, but our imagination when facing dramatic change. Do you believe this prophecy? Do you think robots will enter your home within 5 years? The answers to these questions may well determine your coordinates in the next era. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to stay tuned. I always appreciate your feedback, so drop a comment below. Thanks for listening, and catch you later.